Advanced Web Design. Hopefully you're having a great Wednesday. Today we're going to take a look at doing some JavaScript. So in the past, we were able to manipulate some files that I had you guys work on in terms of, it was that construction website, and we were looking at a JS file and working with date. Well, today we're also going to work on some dating as far as in our JS file, but we're also going to learn a few other basic JavaScript script. So hopefully you have your seasons done. Mine, as you can see, is very simple. I didn't go too extravagant. I have some content. I got my pictures. I got a background image. I chose to do that. As I said, it should be very simple. And of course, I didn't set a width, so I don't need to do that. So today let's talk about first manipulating our file for JavaScript. Now JavaScript again is a programming language of HTML in the web, and it's nice because it lets us interact with our website, our users interact with our website. So there's a few things that we can first work on. There's some things that we can directly do put in our HTML. There's other things that we can put in a JS file, as you already know. So let's first do something pretty simple, and we have done this we have done some of the things like this in previous assignments. So we are going to, sorry about that, start at the top. And I'm going to just do something pretty simple here. I'm going to create a script, and I'm going to do something called alert. Now alert just basically brings a pop-up menu or a pop-up window into my web page. So let me make this bigger. You guys can see. I'm going to put mine at the top, and it's going to be script. See if I can spell things right here. And in my JavaScript, what it does is it actually runs like a computer program. It's in Java scripting language, but it's running as my website or my browser's up. So I'm going to do a script, and I'm going to use something called alert, and that is something that is unique to JavaScript. And in my alert, I might say hello. And then I need a backslash so that it's done, or I'm closing my tag. Save and refresh. And there you go. My alert brings up a pop-up window, and you can see how it's running. So this script is running as long as I have my browser open, and that's the beauty of a JavaScript. It makes it interactive. So once I hit OK, it goes back to my page. So in your page, you could do alert, and you could say, hello, you are into maybe you are, is it okay? Oh, is it okay to view this Michigan season? Click to continue. So let's save that. It helps the spell. Save, and if I refresh, here we go. Hello, is it okay to view this Michigan season site? Click OK to continue. You're going to hit OK, and it's going to go right to your site. So this little script using the word alert is very basic. And you can play around with that, but I'd like you guys to have some type of window that pops up. Next, let's talk about doing something that is, let's go ahead and make it a button. And that's something new to us as well, as making a button. And that can be done directly in your HTML, but it does have some scripting language. So I'm going to scroll down, and maybe I want my button to be under my H1 here. So I am going to say, I'm going to create a button. So I'm going to use the word opening caret, and it's going to be called a button. And I'm going to declare what kind of type it is, and it is big big surprise. And then I'm going to do something that's JavaScript, and it's unique to JavaScript or to a more advanced programming language than HTML, and it's going to be called onClick. And this is something that is reserved in JavaScript, so it knows. So onClick equals, I'm going to use quotation marks. I'm now going to use the document. Remember how we use document, right? We're now going to use document, and we're going to use something called, I can't spell today. We're going to use something called get element by an ID. We're going to create an ID. So get element by ID. So we're going to actually create an ID. So we're going to make an ID in a few minutes, but we're going to grab it when we click the button, and it's going to have demo, or let's say, let's call it my button. And then dot, so I'm getting the element by using my button, by clicking on it, and it's going to be an inner HTML. And so HTML is all one word. And that just means it's going to be inside my HTML. Okay. And I'm going to put out the date. So date, remember we did date before. Date is grabbing that internal date in your computer. Close it out with a closing quotation mark, just like here. Close it out with a caret. And then I can put whatever I want in that's going to show up on the button. So I'm going to say, please click to view date and time. And then I'm going to close that out with a backslash button. So you notice that button is my tag, if you will. I'm creating a type of button that's called a button, and then I close it out with this backslash button, closing that tag out. Then I'm going to I can create my ID element by saying, hey, it's going to be like a paragraph. I'm going to create that ID, and I'm going to call it my button. And I'm going to close that out. So it's going to be like a paragraph on my page, meaning it's going to have above white space and below white space. I'm calling that paragraph my button. And basically when I click on the button, it's going to get the element my button, and it's going to put it on the browser, and it's going to find the date. So let's save this. So hopefully it works. And I typed everything. So this first does the alert. Hit OK. And then there is my button. If I click on that, it now shows, that's where you get the document. It now shows the date and time. So now you've created your first button, and you've created your first alert. Pretty easy stuff. So you might do something else where maybe if somebody clicks on something, it can change the font. So let's go ahead and do that. Maybe, sorry. Let's create another button. And I'm going to do it right next to it. I'm going to give myself some white space so you guys can see. So I'm going to create a button. It's going to be type. It's going to be a button. Okay. I got to grab something here. I'm going to make it a button. And I am going to say on click. I just like to have some white space. You guys don't necessarily need to do that. It's going to be a document. The element. Get element. Sorry about that. Get element by ID. And I'm going to call this I'm going to call this maybe my title. Sorry, looks like my play around with it. And I'm going to change the style of my title. Font size. And I'm going to make it maybe 35 pixels. And then I'm going to close it out with the closing quotation marks for that document. And make sure your quotation marks are straight up and down if you're using a Mac. And then you have a closing caret. And then I'm going to show what's on the button, maybe click here. And then backslash button. And then my paragraph that it's gonna, or my element ID that it's gonna find is called my title. And I'm actually gonna go way up here. And instead of this being in H1, I'm gonna now make it a paragraph. And I can say T ID equals my title. And I need quotation marks. Oops. And I'm gonna do closing P there. And basically that's saying when I click on the button, when I click on, I need to tighten this up a little bit. When I click on the button that says click here, it's going to make my font size called my title, this paragraph, my title. It's going to make that a font size of 35, hopefully. Refresh. Again, you're going to have the alert. I'm going to hit OK. And then here's my click here. And it makes my font size bigger. Now, maybe you want it much larger. Maybe you want it 50 pixels. Save, refresh. There. Now, again, remember you can do break lines just like in HTML. Maybe there. And I just broke the line using a BR. If you want a few of them, you can do that. Just to break it up. Okay. There we go. So now I have two things. If I click on this, it tells me the time. I click here, it makes the font bigger. Next I can do is we can actually put in some JavaScript. So remember with the construction, we did the day of time, the time. So what time it was during the day. So we could determine if it's good morning, good afternoon. We're going to do the same thing with this, but we are going to talk about seasons or months. So we want to look at the months of this website or the months in general. So I'm going to create a new JS file here. New. And I'm going to call this, oops, I'm just going to say this is a JS file. And I'm going to go ahead and declare a variable. So variable T. And I'm going to say it's a new date. So I'm grabbing the date of the computer. And what I want to do is not only maybe the hours, at least I want to know perhaps what month it is. So I'm going to create a new variable. And I'm going to say M for month. And I'm going to say once I get the date, I'm going to attach it to finding the get month. And then I'm going to do a simple if statement. So when we're talking about months in Java, we talk with zeros through all the way through 11. So it doesn't start at 1, it starts at 0. And we can check to see what it's doing. So let's go ahead and do that in here. Let's do a document, right? Just so we can see what our computer is telling us as far as the date. And I'm just going to output, I'm going to just output the M, or in this case, the month. It's going to tell me, and it's going to tell me by number. Okay. And then let's save that. Oops. And remember, hopefully it's in the right spot. I need this to be a JS file, so I'm going to call this Bauman, or I can do it seasons. Let's do season JS. And I'm going to save. And then I'm going to call upon it in here. So I could do it under my Michigan. I can do it above my picture. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it here. I'm going to do a script. So script. And now src, that's the source. So src. And I'm going to find the source or name the file. And that file is seasons. I didn't put it in a special folder or anything. Oh, and then I just need to close up that script. And hopefully it prints out at least the date or the day, the month number. That's what I'm looking for, the month number. Oops, so I have script src, that's the location. It's in, as you can see, I didn't make any folders or anything for that, and which I should have. I probably should have made folders for my JS file and for my pics, but this one you didn't need to. You call upon it and you close up tag. Let's see, and I'm going to refresh. Again, I get the pop-up. And there it tells me number 2 right there. So it's March, so I know March is 2. So I need to remember that 0 starts at January, 1 starts at February, 2 is going to be in March. So let's go back to our JS file. And now that I know that's how it's thinking, how my computer is thinking, I'm going to do some programming. So I'm going to do an if statement, very similar to what we did before with the construction website and finding out what time of day it was. We're going to do if. We're going to do an if statement and compare. And again, remember, M was my month, and I then want to have some kind of output. So I'm going to compare month. M is the month. And to compare, you have to use the equal sign. So before we used the operators, the less than or greater than sign to compare hours. If we're doing direct comparison, so we have to compare one month number to another, to an actual number, we need to do the equal sign. And that just says, is it equivalent? So is M going to be equivalent to the number 0, or is it going to be equivalent to the number 1? Not necessarily the value of 1, but just equivalent to it. So let's start with 0. And then I am closing paren, and then I'm going to have curly bracket, and I'm going to have it output something. Now, I didn't create a variable for output or for what I want it to say, so I might go ahead and do that. I create a new variable, and I might say MM for my month, and it's going to leave open. So if it's equal or equivalent to 0, I'm going to say MM is now going to be assigned to the word January. And then semicolon, curly bracket. And then else, if M is equivalent to 1, it is going to have MM equal to February. Just make sure you work on that and get all the way to your months, and then you'll be at part 2.